Attorney General Greg Abbott. General Abbott, welcome back to the show. It's good to talk to you again, sir. Okay, so your opinion
great
of
to
the...
visit with you.
Yes,
Great
sir. Your opinion of the 1,000-troop surge. What do you think?
Because the federal government has failed at its fundamental responsibility to keep the border secure, because the federal government has failed in its fundamental responsibility to address immigration reform, Texas must step up and do what the federal government has failed to do. Part of that was adding the DPS officers. Part of that was adding the National Guard. And we are having to do this simply because the federal government has dropped the ball, has been frankly negligent, has failed to fulfill constitutional duties, forcing the state to step up and fill the gap and secure the border, which we and everyone can agree that the border is absolutely porous and that something needs to be done to add some security to it.
Okay,
and so Texas will do what the federal government has failed to do.
Stand for. If you are elected governor at the end of the year and you start next year, I heard a report that said that this DPS troop surge might last maybe a year, and of course the National Guard thing at least to the end of the year. Would you be in favor of continuing a DPS troop surge and a DPS trooper surge and maybe even a National Guard surge into next year if things have not been alleviated, as far as the Central American illegal immigrant flood that we see right now?
Long before we saw what happened with regard to the huge influx of unaccompanied minors coming from Central America that was exposed most profoundly here in the last couple of months. Going back to last January, I rolled out my Keeping Texas Secure plan. And so I articulated 6 months ago what I would be doing as governor. And it does include a component of additional border security that I need to explain to you. It does add 500 more DPS officers. It adds dozens more Texas Rangers. It adds many more assets in the air, on the water, and in advanced technology.
Okay.
However, the focus was not and is not on the unaccompanied children. The focus is on
the porous border.
On the porous border,
Yeah.
keeping the border secure from the drug cartels, from the dangers, from the MS-13 gang members. But here's the point in making that point, and that is that this is something that occurs not just on the border. This is something that occurs across the entire state of Texas and across the entire country.
Do you see that as a permanent presence by the state of Texas, General? Would you think that the 500 extra DPS, the dozen more Rangers, and all the technology, the boats and everything, would that be a permanent commitment by the state of Texas from this point on? Should that be?
It would be, with this one clarification point, and that is when you're reference to the word presence, it's not a presence on the border. As I was wanting to explain, border security means securing also the communities in Houston, in San Antonio, in Dallas, in the sleepy suburb of South Lake, Texas, which is between Dallas and Fort Worth, where there was a cartel hit that took place up there, in the schools in Houston, where the cartel members and their related gangs are recruiting high school students to leave a life of upward mobility and instead join a life of crime associated with MS-13. This is a statewide effort that we need to use these DPS officers, these force multipliers in every community across the state.
Attorney General Greg Abbott joining us on 710 KURV.
Mr. Abbott, Tim Sullivan here, and a good morning to you. How do you respond to our local business community, the business experts here at Ground Zero, who have been saying that the National Guard soldiers, the people in military uniform, their presence just sends the wrong message to prospective businesses? Companies that may want to locate here now may not, because they just don't like the scene.
Right. Well, I can make the business leaders in the Rio Grande Valley feel very good about this because of two things. One is, contrary to some of the hysteria whipped up by those who are uninformed, this is not going to be a militarization of the border. These are members of our community here in the state of Texas who do things like help out when hurricanes hit the state. When hurricanes hit the state and we have people helping out our friends and neighbors, people don't consider that to be a militarization. The same thing applies here. These are people who are not going to show up with guns and bayonets. They're going to be showing up, assisting in any way they can to help out with the challenges we face on the border. But here's the larger point, and that is one thing that every business looks to, and every city and county and state they consider relocating their business to, is going to be the safety of the community. And when business think about relocating elsewhere, and when they see, well, the state of Texas is stepping up and ensuring the safety and security of the community in the Rio Grande Valley, they know this is going to be a safe place to relocate their business to. So this is going to be something that will attract even more jobs. And the last point is that we all know the magnitude of the cross-border trade, which I think is somewhere near $700 million per day. And what everyone in the state of Texas supports is a full and effective cross-border trade, this legitimate trade. And we want to promote that legitimate trade and cross-border activity on a daily basis while preventing the illicit, illegal trade that may be taking place. That is good for the businessmen and women in the Rio Grande Valley. That is good for the business numbers in the state of Texas. That will be good for attracting even more business to the Rio Grande Valley, which is one of my goals as governor, and that is to do more to stimulate the economic development in the Rio Grande Valley.
It came out during yesterday's hearing by the Special House Committee on Border Operations up in Austin that Governor Perry did not consult with either DPS or the National Guard before giving the order to deploy the National Guard. Is that the right move?
Let's be clear on one thing, and I happened to read the story. I may have my facts wrong, and the facts that you relayed may be wrong. What I think I saw is that they didn't, I don't know if he consulted with them or not, or they didn't say that it needed to be done. I'm not sure. What I do know, just on past history, is that the governor is in constant contact with Steve McCraw, the director of the DPS. I mean, he talks to him on almost a daily basis. He gets reports. I know that I get reports on a weekly basis about what's going on. And so I know he's fully informed about all this. And so I don't know the accuracy of that information.
Okay. General Abbott, before we let you go, I know we went long with this interview, but if you could indulge us just for a couple more minutes.
Sure.
Some lawmakers say, $5 million monthly, and they have questions as to where the money's coming from. In your opinion, where should the money be coming from? Where do you go from?
Or where is the money coming from now?
Where do you take it from to pay for that? And number two, what do you say to some of the local law enforcement that have been quoted to say, hey, we could sure use that money. Why don't you give us the money next year and we'll secure the border for you?
Right. And what those local lawmakers and local law enforcement officials are saying is precisely what my plan as governor says. For my plan that adds 500 DPS and Texas Rangers, it also adds support for local law enforcement. My plan costs $300 million a year, and it comes from general revenue or the general budget. This is money that the state of Texas must allocate. What we have to do as Texas leaders is establish priorities. Public safety and keeping the state safe and secure is one of our top priorities. We must spend money here first before we spend it elsewhere. But it does include money and resources for local law enforcement to help them do their job better.
General Abbott, thank you for your time. Yes, he's running for governor of Texas. That is Attorney General Greg Abbott joining us on 710 KURV.